shore, and he took us straight to the market. These psychic powers are great, these psychic powers are great. I can't even levitate your roast beef sandwich off the plate. Can you relate? I'm getting it straight. Oh, but at a later date.
So my first bust out was World Invocation Day in the field of Bluebell next to Chautauqua. Brought together the Navajo and the Holy Man and the Hindus, and it was a one-of-a-kind spiritual super event. Must have been 71. And out of nowhere, I showed up with a 30-piece orchestra, 20-piece choir, and a funk rhythm section, and I just leaped on the opportunity to combine the spiritual message with the music I was writing at the time.
Tim used to do what he called Boing sessions over at Banana Land Studios. And Boing sessions were part of his non-phenomenal theater experiment. And, you know, it was very loose, very creative music. And he would draw pictures, you know, rhomboids and squares and triangles and shapes. And he would hold that up for the horn section and say, play that. So we were boinging big time.
Called it Orchestra of Clouds because not of the clouds. It's not an orchestra in the clouds, it's of clouds, made of clouds. Each player is a mutable, changing source. A big step was 74, stepping into the planetarium. The new director of the new planetarium said, bring those jazz musicians. So we showed up with jazz musicians and a dance ensemble and clowns, and we got into scripting to use the planetarium. Around 82, I shifted into an R&B thing after presenting original music for like 17 years. Picked up on a Motown thing, picked up on getting paid a little bit, and did the All-Stars with the horn section and played super yuppie parties and corporate gigs and started getting paid for change.
Tim had this sort of wizardry about him where he could command a stage, and you needed to corral this motley group.
So Judy Roderick was strong, and she picked up, when she picked up drums, you know, she picked up knockout guitar players as far as I was concerned. Really the first virtuoso in the area I know of. I looked at it that way. Don DeBacker, tremendous guitar player. It still had a folk rock quality in the compositions, but she had some peeling players.
There were times when she would sing and it would the hair would come up on the back of your neck. It came from someplace soulful, her toenails or someplace, and you would just, where did that come from?
Can 60 Million Buffalo be wrong? If she'd have just done a duet with Elvis, and she got to record an album for Atlantic.
It was an upstairs club, and we did a show with Freddi-Henchi there, which is, with magic music, the ultimate wrong billing. Acoustic hippies and funk, and it worked.
Straight out of L.A. You know, we were the first people to wear Beatle boots. You know, because we were out of L.A., we played right on the corner of Hollywood and Vine at the Haunted House, and we were the house band at the Whiskey A Go-Go for years. Two black guys dancing together back in the late 60s, you know. Kind of strange. Pretty soon we were spending more time here than L.A. Tommy lived across the hall from Freddie and I for about 2 years, and Joe Walsh lived right next door. We all lived in Spanish Towers together.
You guys do any partying while you were here?
Welcome to the Freddi-Henchi party. We were more known for our parties than for our music ability when we first came here. Everybody used to come and say, hey, we'll go see those guys because we know you're going to be a great party afterwards. Yeah, yeah. It's fun seeing John Denver crawl around on your living room floor. Yeah. All those guys, man. I'm not kidding you. Yep.
1424 Pearl. Third floor, the Good Earth nightclub.
You know, we always wanted to, a place, you know, where we could perform and, you know, bring in other acts. We got the first full cabaret license, you know, downtown Boulder ever had, you know, even before Shannon. You know, we were the house band, and we also had Firefall was our house band.
I totally fell into, by pure chance, the touring band of Graham Parsons, Emmylou Harris, and the Fallen Angels. They came to town to Boulder to play at the Edison Electric Company, which is now the Dark Horse, and they were terrible. And I went and sat in the next night and got hired by them to go on about a month-and-a-half long tour. 3 days earlier, I was, beating my head against the wall, unable to find a gig, and then I'm now in Houston playing the same guitar, looking the same, wearing the same shoes and everything, except now I'm on stage with Neil Young and Linda Ronstadt going, wow, what a level change. One of the last gigs on the road was at Max's Kansas City in New York City. Rick Roberts, who had replaced Graham Parsons in the Flying Burrito Brothers, was playing as a soloist the night after our last engagement.
I saw them play one night, and Jock, approached me. He said, "Hey, aren't you from Boulder?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I live there too, man. We'll have to get together." And I went, "Oh yeah, we will. We'll have to get together and do that." Mm-hmm, yeah, that sort of thing. I was here several months later when Timmy Goodman's band was playing, and I just ended up stopping dead in my tracks. And I'm going, "This is the guy I've been putting off?" Because he blew my socks off.
Then we started getting serious about trying to put something musical together. And the great thing about Firefall that we really never tried to do is we sounded like us. We were talking about Cinderella, There's not another band that sounds like it.
And they made some really good sounding records. They teamed up with Jim Mason, who was kind of the unsung hero of that band.
The thing that made Firefall unique in 1975 or 6 was that it wasn't just a rock and roll band with a lead guitar break. It had a saxophone and a guitar that were married. And I feel that, I'd like to have a little pat on the back for the way that we all developed that sound together.
So we had a combination of great songs and a sound that clicked, and it was just perfect timing. Well, we were real successful, and we got maximum airplay and went around the world and played and had a comet ride for about, 4 or 5 years. But, we made a lot of mistakes, and actually our decline started happening before we realized it.
For a while, a very short while, we thought they might be our flag bearers for the Boulder music scene. And they're going to show them how we rock. But their audiences didn't want that. They wanted, "Just remember I love you."
I thought the Blue Note was about as much in New York as we ever had in Boulder, right on Pearl Street.
That was like our own little private clubhouse, Especially on Monday nights, they had the New Wave Monday night, and we just sort of took it over, because again, it started as a jazz club, and then they would get national acts in, like Richard Thompson or Jack Bruce or whatever it was.
So it was Boulder's answer to the Copacabana. It was a sophisticated hang.
It was totally the contemporary drug den of inequity that became the model for every drug den of inequity and Colorado bardom. I mean, in terms of quality, there was 350 people jammed ass to elbow in there. You couldn't hear, the quality of the sound sucked. It was a bar, it was, total rock and roll bar, It was dark and it was dirty, and it was very exciting to me at the time.
The great thing about Big Head Todd and the Monsters is what they managed to accomplish all by themselves. We talk about all the Boulder bands that weren't in the right place at the right time, who didn't have management or getting nibbles from major labels. Like that's the only way to attain success in the fabulous music biz. Big Head Todd and the Monsters didn't care. They had that do-it-yourself ethic from the get-go, formed their own big records, recorded their own CDs, sold them at their gigs, booked their own tours. When they finally signed a big management deal with Morris Gleason and Associates, and then again with Giant Records to make their albums, they didn't need their help.
I never felt that you had to conquer the world or, be on MTV or do all those things. But we thought it was totally within our grasp to develop 5 other markets that were as exciting as what we'd done in Boulder.
I think, honestly, they have been the most successful band that have ever grown up and come out of here. And I tell you, it's such a different, if there's anything I want to say about Todd, it's that there's such a different generation of musicians today than they were when I first got started, and I'm totally amazed by that. Level-headed, straighter, don't abuse alcohol or drugs. Not to saying that some musicians don't, but they come from a much bigger percentage now are like Todd than aren't. Focused. Todd after shows goes back to his bus and reads a book. Today, the old craziness, it's still there, but there's a bunch of young musicians like Todd that have grown up in a different culture.
Bless those boys. They did it their way.
The music scene was pretty good here. Big Head Todd and the Samples were very popular. Band Jour was strong, Leftover Salmon, Acoustic Junction. As far as I remember, those, Doug and the Thugs and Rochambeau, a.k.a. Free Beer. Those are the ones that were kicking at the time. Water.
I can't emphasize how important over the last 6, 7 years the Fox has been. The Fox Theater has been instrumental in making the Boulder again a national venue for music, and it's helped to resurrect the Boulder Theater in some ways.
There's always been a representative of Boulder that's been, one of the top nationally recognized clubs. Tulagi's, the Boulder Theater, the Blue Note, the Coast, and now the Fox. Every single one of them nominated top, nationally recognized as one of the top rooms of the day. There's a history of people really caring about live music in this area, and especially in Boulder. And I think that Boulder's a valuable, more than you might think, gateway between different parts of the country. You've got a really intelligent, diverse, from all over the country, hip, student base that typically, a lot of them will wind up living in Colorado. And it also is the kind of place that so many people through their travels have been through the hill. Boulder's changed a lot, but I think that all the old Tulagi's guys would be pretty happy to see that it's come full circle around to being right next door at the Fox.
Party's over, the party's over. It's time to call it a day.
So anyway, the new version says, I dig rock and roll music, and I love to get the chance to play and sing it. I think it's about the happiest sound going down today. Now it's different, it goes. It never fails to move me. It means a great deal to me. And I heard the band say it's here to stay. I dig Elton and the Eagles, they can really get it on in their scene. Now imagine Ringo, Ronstadt, Denver in the Rockies, and the Bee Gees keep playing it clean. They're dancing at the disco, New York to San Francisco, Chicago somewhere in between. I dig Simon and his rhyming with his 50 ways to rhythm and blues. He's got a good thing going. Me, I'm still paying my dues. Springsteen may be the latest, but Dylan's still the greatest. And I'll never hang up my rock and roll shoes. No, no, I dig rock and roll music when it's funky with a steady beat. 'Cause it's got a certain kind of magic, gets me moving on my feet. The Beatles used to play it, or say it, the DJs all still play it. And get up there dancing in the street. I dig rock and roll music, I dig.
Well, that's about all the time we got. We hope that, that you enjoyed hearing these stories as much as we enjoyed telling them. I'm not going to say that everything that was said here in the last hour is the truth, but I am going to say we did the best we could.